Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Bann. I've got my own mug. It's got this on one side, and I have to be careful because this thing does have coffee in it. It's got this on the other. Today's coffee is Folgers Buttery Caramel. And today's topic? Drawing apps! Finally, something that's not video games. Yeah, I can taste some caramel in there. It's not bad. It's a little bit bitter, but it's also Folgers. I kind of expect that of them. Their coffee is adequate, usually, from my experience. So, drawing apps. Drawing apps are fun because they allow you to draw. Which, I know, sounds absolutely insane. I have some experience with several drawing apps, right? Like, you might be surprised to learn that the primary one I used for a long time was just MS Paint. And, quite frankly, I still love Paint. As long as it's not on Windows 11. Windows 11 Paint feels wrong to me, since they're cramming in, like, AI features or something, and I don't like that. But, where's... Really? What? There we go. Okay, sorry. Paint is maybe the most basic out of, like, every drawing app. It's just a drawing app. It's not anything else, right? It's not generally meant for art that's any more realistic than maybe a stick figure or something. Paint is very much just a basic draw some lines kind of tool. It's not meant for anything particularly complex usually. And you can tell. But honestly, it's pretty great for beginners. It only recently got layers, and like, why? Does Paint need layers? I mean, I can appreciate it, but how much complexity do you need in Microsoft Paint? It's just there for you to draw a couple of lines on a picture. But I'm being a little bit harsh. I do like Paint. It's got a very specific, crappy-looking quality to the lines that you draw. And I'm just I'm very fond of that sort of aesthetic. And also, the paint bucket looks like garbage if you use the anti-alias, like, paintbrush tool. But anyway, Paint is neat, I like it, but it's also very beginner-oriented and not really for, you know, anything more complex than super simple line art or mock-up. Which is where a different art app comes in. I've tried a good few art apps. My main one nowadays is Fire Alpaca. I like it. It's free. It's not open source, unfortunately, but it costs no money. And that is nice. I've been using it probably since 2016 or so. Maybe more like 2017. I don't know. I've been using it for a while now. And it's the one that I know best. It works fairly well. It doesn't require a whole lot of tinkering overall, which is nice. Though I think that the brushes are a little bit lackluster. Like, Fire Alpaca does not have a particularly good pencil brush. That is something that I have noticed with it, and it's really unfortunate. That isn't to say it doesn't have a pencil brush at all, it's just not a great one. It doesn't give the vibe of a pencil, it gives the vibe of vaguely kind of trying to fake a pencil. If that makes sense. Like, it's just kind of... It's mediocre at best. But it is very good with its paintbrush tools. And particularly, I appreciate the fact that you can turn off anti-aliasing on a per-tool basis. So you can get stuff like this. You can do pixel art. I don't consider this stuff kind of pixel art, but like, it is using... It's low resolution, and using pixels, and it's not anti-aliased automatically or anything. I don't know, it's a style that I quite like. My main tool is just pen with no pressure sensitivity whatsoever, and anti-aliasing turned on, size 10 on 1920 by 1080 canvas, and yeah, and stabilization turned a good bit up. I have other tools as well, like, I have like a set of 4 tools that I like to use. Got one that's just a pen with no variance whatsoever. I have a pen that has a little bit of variance, size 9. It does have pressure sensitivity for size and not opacity, and it has only a little bit of pressure sensitivity. So like, it does not go down all the way, like, to a perfect point or anything. I like that one. Then I've got one that's like a weird textured, like, 2 pixel wide thing. And that is what I have used for, a comic that I make, or have made. I'm working on the next part. But, like, it was meant to look like a sketchy thing, and it kind of succeeded, kind of didn't. It doesn't look like a pencil. It was kind of meant to look like a pencil, but, like, that one was, also a custom one that I made, and I don't claim to be good at this. One really neat thing with Fire Alpaca brushes, actually, you can make custom ones not too difficultly-ish. Words are hard. I have a set of aliased brushes, right? And they are really neat. I like them because I have them set up to look like they're directly from Flipnote Studio. Like, with all of the patterns and everything. And that's how I make my vaguely pixel art looking art. I have a brush set to either 2.3 or 3.3, no anti-aliasing, and a resolution of 256 by 192, the same as the DS resolution. One downside with Fire Alpaca is actually the fact that it doesn't have a liquify tool, which, because it's my main one, it's my main app, it's not something I've noticed. I don't bother with a liquify tool. because I don't have it in my main app. But it is something that a lot of people use to make small adjustments, and it's definitely a downside not having one. Now, I will say Fire Alpaca is not the only art app. Big shocker. I know a lot of people use Photoshop for drawing, and if they have Photoshop, sure, but like, it is not ideal for art, generally. It's meant for editing photos. I think its brushes are just kind of... It's not really laid out for art. And its brushes are not great, in my opinion. They're fine, but not great. But also, I don't like Photoshop much. Partially because I don't like Adobe much. One Adobe product I do like is old versions of Flash. Like, I do draw, just regular draw, with Flash CS6 sometimes. Because Flash looks crappy in a very particular way, kind of like MS Paint, but a different kind of particular way. Right? I like Flash. I don't like modern versions because of the whole subscription thing, but like, older versions of Flash, honestly, it's a pretty fun art app for me. I've drawn some cool stuff in it. And I don't have to worry too much about everything looking perfectly clean and connected and everything, because it's Flash. It's not gonna look great no matter what I do, so why bother with it? But Flash is very much not an art app. It is meant for animation, and yeah, you can tell it's very not meant for art. It has one brush and an eraser and a fill tool, but like, you're not going to do a whole lot of complex stuff with it as far as art goes. Oh yeah, and with older versions, zooming in or out changes the brush size. So like, if you zoom in and draw a line, that line will be thinner than the rest of the lines around it from before you zoomed in. And it's weird. I know that that's a setting in modern Adobe Animate, but with Flash, at least CS6 and earlier, it's not. It's like a classic brush thing in modern Animate. Anyway, okay, right. But not to spend too long on Animate/Flash, because that's not really an art app. One art app I've been using a lot of lately is Clip Studio Paint, because version 5 recently released, and I got that for an early birthday present. And I am loving it so far. I will say, some things are not particularly intuitive on Clip Studio Paint. Like, my sibling was telling me yesterday, or the day before, I think it was yesterday. No, it was the day before. About the symmetry ruler and how it doesn't automatically center itself on the canvas, which I can appreciate the fact that you can customize where it is, but like, you can't automatically have it center itself, and that is not particularly intuitive. But the brushes in Clip Studio Paint are honestly pretty great. One sec, let me close out a Fire Alpaca. Having multiple art apps open at the same time on this thing is kind of a recipe for terrible. I really love, like, all of the brushes in Clip Studio Paint. They are they're really neat. They have interesting blending, and like they have just a really nice pencil. I like the pencils. Mechanical pencil is just my favorite to use. Okay, I just drew a pencil. I don't know. Okay, there. I drew a pencil. Anyway. So, Clip Studio Paint, on PC at the very least, I like it. I do quite like it. It's got good brushes, it feels good to use overall, and at the very least, version 3 runs great on this ancient piece of garbage from 2016 that, like, has 4 gigs of RAM and a mobile Core i3, I think. Maybe a Core i5, but either way, it's not a powerful device. And it can run Clip Studio Paint, assuming you're not running a whole bunch of other stuff at the same time. Now, if you need open source, there are options. You have a couple of options for open source art. A, GIMP, which, certainly is an option. GIMP is the open source Photoshop alternative, and it's not great, if I'm being totally honest. Nothing is intuitive on it. You can tell that it was made by programmers and not designers, right? Which is unfortunate, because the idea of an open source Photoshop alternative is incredible, and I want that so badly, but it still has to be good. And GIMP just kind of isn't really there. Also, because it's, you know, a Photoshop replacement and not an art app replacement, it's kind of, not meant for art, exactly. It's meant for touching up photos. Now, what is meant for art and open source? Krita. Or Krita. I think it's Krita. I'm gonna call it Krita. I like Krita. I like the name Krita more than Krita. It's like critter. Anyway, Krita is open source. It's made by KDE, I think. The same people who did Plasma and a whole bunch of other stuff, and Kden Live. I have not been able to get into Krita, personally. The brushes seem fine enough to me, but honestly, the layout just doesn't feel right. And that might just be because I am coming from a completely different art app, but, like, it also has some of the open source problems that, problems. If my voice could not crack, please and thank you. It also has some of the open source problems that GIMP has. Not nearly as bad as GIMP, but, like, it does have some of it. If Tantacruel could take over design for Krita, that would be awesome. Anyway, right. And so I have not really figured out how to utilize Krita properly, like to its fullest potential. I can use it, but, like, not very well. But it seems reasonably powerful. I've seen other people's art made in it, and yeah, people can do impressive stuff with it, but people can also do impressive stuff with MS Paint. See that one video of somebody doing a super realistic Santa Claus image in MS Paint and only MS Paint. You might know that one. It's an oldie but a goodie. But yeah, I'm Krita isn't something that I can really talk a whole lot about because I don't have that much experience with it and haven't been able to sort of grasp it fully, right? Real quick side note, there is another Photoshop alternative that is free and not open source. Photopea. It's in a browser. It works. It's got most of the same functionality as Photoshop and is surprisingly compatible with Photoshop. Like, it's got similar filters and all that, and it can export as a PSD. PSD. My word. One sec. Just wanted a little bit of regular water. That did not help and only served to muddy the taste of the coffee. That was a bad idea. Anyway, what was I talking about again? Photopea. Right. Photopea. Also not really great for art, and it's not going to run super well most of the time. Like, it's going to run fine, but not with, like, bigger files or anything, because it is in a browser. Now, browser apps have come a long way in the last, like, what, 15 years? Yeah, since, like, 2010 or something. But it's still not ideal. There's also one called Sumo Paint that I remember in a browser. I remember going to that one during school because it wasn't blocked for a little while. Then it was. I don't have a whole lot of memories of it. I remember it having a pretty heavy stabilizer. Oh, right. Also, Magma, previously called Aggie, but like collaborative drawing. It's got a decent selection of features, not a whole lot of brushes. It is also in a browser, but like it's fun to do. And in some ways, I could probably replace Fire Alpaca with it if I really wanted to. I don't really want to, but like I could. But PC also isn't the only platform to draw on. Unsurprising. If you really, really want to draw digitally, but you don't have a computer, there are options. For example, let's say you have a phone. This still isn't a phone, it's an iPod Touch, but it works as an analog. Or, I guess a digital? I don't. It gives the idea. Let's say you've got a phone, right? And you want to draw. First suggestion a lot of people will give is IBIS Paint X. It is fine. Unfortunately, it's freemium, so, you know, ad-supported and all that, but honestly, what app isn't at this point? Like, there's so few actually free apps. Or even paid apps, really. I don't know, I guess there are some paid apps on, like, as far as art goes. But anyway, okay, right. Getting off track. IBIS Paint X is perfectly cromulent. You can draw in it. It works fairly well. It's got a good selection of brushes as well as a lot of user-made brushes. Unfortunately, the stabilizer is not nearly strong enough. Also, because it's a mobile app, it's annoying to export images. And the UI is just kind of mildly annoying to me. Oh, I'm running low on coffee. Guess I better wrap this up soon. Now, what I use on mobile is Medibang, which, Medibang is a really weird situation, because, like, it's a fork of Fire Alpaca, which is a fork of a different art app, but, like, Medibang is the one that's available on mobile as well as PC, and, like, it's got cloud features, but it's kind of, sort of, basically just Fire Alpaca, but for mobile, but, like, well, okay, on mobile it's like Fire Alpaca for mobile, but, like, how do I put this? It's weird. Like, you don't navigate it quite the same way that you would navigate, that you would navigate desktop Fire Alpaca, because that's not how mobile apps work. But, like, it's got the same, like, feeling as far as how you actually draw on it. But, like, it's just such a weird sort of abomination. I don't care if that's not the right word. It's like a weird amalgamation of Fire Alpaca's code base with a UI more similar to something like Ibis Paint X. It works fine. It does not have quite the same functionality as the desktop version of Fire Alpaca or Medibang, but, like, that's not surprising. It's a mobile app. Krita exists on Android tablets, I know, but, like, does anybody use Android tablets? Is that a thing still? Like, I don't actually know anybody who uses an Android tablet. I still have an old, like, Amazon Fire tablet in my room, but I don't use it. Android is not great for tablets. It never has been. But that is a rant for a completely different video. Anyway. Right. So, Krita exists for Android. From my understanding, it's very similar to the desktop version, including UI-wise. I know Clip Studio Paint exists on mobile and tablet, and, like, I can't really give any experience with that because I don't want to pay for it again. And also I don't have an extra tablet and I don't want to draw a whole lot on my phone usually. But, like, it exists. I think it might be a subscription thing. That's unfortunate. But anyway, the big one that people use on mobile, specifically on iPad, is Procreate. And that Procreate is such an interesting beast. I'm not even sure what to say about Procreate, but, like, it's an art app, obviously. It works well, but it has a lot of weirdness to it. Like, a lot of things don't quite work how you'd expect. Like, I don't even remember how the fill tool works, but I remember it being really weird. Like a drag and drop the color thing, rather than just choose color, choose fill tool, fill. And because it's, you know, on an Apple device, exporting images is suck and terrible. But that's more of a limitation of Apple devices, iOS/iPadOS, and not a limitation of the app necessarily. Procreate, oh, it does have great brushes, but, like, Procreate is such a strange mix of familiar and what the hell do I do here. I know my mom's complained about it a decent bit and doesn't really like it very much. She uses an iPad just for, like, productivity and such, but she does not like Apple. She has made that very clear. She does not like Apple or any of their product/devices very much. Unfortunately, the Apple Pencil just happens to be the best stylus for, like, any device ever. But I am running low on coffee and time. This was supposed to be a shorter episode because I wasn't expecting to have a billion things to talk about. So, moral of the story is, Microsoft Paint is also in a browser. It's, jspaint.app. Go use that. It's cool. it's the older version too, so it doesn't have like anti-aliasing and all that. It's just pure like Windows XP style Microsoft Paint. And that has been Coffee with Bann.